the executive and the legislature. It gives the legislature the powers to manage the affairs of the Nigerian armed forces. Running away from this is running away from our own constitutional responsibilities as enunciated by my friend, skillfully too, Senator Bamidele, and also the mover of this bill. I therefore do respectfully state that this issue really is not controversial. The issue is when the bill now comes after it goes to the committee and then it's presented to him so that we can look at the articles. And whatever is required to be done, judging from the peculiarity of this country, which we all know, we should now sit down, given the responsibilities that have been assigned to us as members of this hallowed by our constituents, do justice without fear or favor, and patriotically come up with a law and a commission that does justice to the responsibilities that this nation and its constitution falls on us. So with me, for example, Chairman, is really any motion. I think the motion passes every test that it should go and pass the second reading. And when we come for the third reading of the bill after it has gone through the public hearing and all our legal and legislative processes, we should put our hands together so that we can come up with a law that does justice to the responsibilities that have been assigned to us by the constitutions of this great country.
DSP. Thank you, Mr. President. Uvi Omo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I like to align myself in the main with the position taken by the leader of the Senate. Mr. President, on the surface, it's difficult to quarrel the content of the motion, of the bill. But Mr. President, the devil is in the details. The devil is in the details. So I, standing here today, I will not be opposed to this bill being read for the second time. So we have an opportunity during the public hearing and when it comes here to look at the provisions. But let me just say up front, without prejudice to what will come out from the public hearing, under Section 219, which is the anchor for this bill, what they are seeking to do is enact a law, an act of parliament, though provided for under 219, but it will be an inferior legislation to the constitutional provisions. Because the power to appoint the chief of defense staff, the chief of army staff, the chief of naval staff, the chief of air force, and other security is already conferred on Mr. President. And that's a constitutional provision. 218B, I believe. 2182. That power is sacrosanct. It's already established. I am saying this, that we should not end up making a law, which is an act of the National Assembly, that will derogate from the clear constitutional power already conferred on Mr. President. But having said that, Mr. President, will I wait to see the deliberations of the public hearing and also wait for the clause-by-clause consideration when it comes before us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Alero.
Thank you, President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Muhammad Adamu Alero, representing the good people of Kebbi State. Mr. President, I stand on the other side of the divide, and quite difficult to support the second reading of this bill because it offends the Constitution. The armed forces is the symbol of Nigerian unity. Therefore, we should not do anything to politicize it. And with the amendment bill as proposed by my good friend and my brother, Senator Abadibi, the Senate Minority Leader, we will compromise the provisions of the Constitution. And we will politicize the appointments of service chiefs, which is not good for this country. Mr. President, already we have the federal character which had the responsibility of overseeing appointments in virtually all establishments of the federal government. And we have power to summon the leader, the chief executive of any commission that offends the federal character in the appointment. Mr. President, we all know that if the Army, the Navy, the Air Force are recruiting, they will normally comply with the federal character. In every state of the Federation is given slots. In fact, equal number of slots. States that are even bigger in terms of population are not even considered based on their population. I will give you an example. A state like Lagos, with a population of over 20 million people, they are given the same number of people with Bayelsa, with the population of maybe about 4 or 5 million people. Simply because they want to comply with the provisions of the Constitution. So if we go ahead with the proposal, it will certainly compromise the integrity, the neutrality of the Nigerian Armed Forces. And this is going to be very dangerous. The service chiefs are appointed among the most competent officers in the hierarchy, whether it is the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force. If a service chief is to be appointed, normally the National Security Council will recommend to the President the most senior and the most competent among the officers. So if we go ahead with this proposal, Mr. President, it will undermine the constitutional provision. And what this bill seeks to do is to recognize the 6th geopolitical zone of this country, which is alien to the Nigerian Constitution, even though we have acts of National Assembly recognizing the geopolitical zoning, but the Constitution does not recognize political zoning. So, if you want to do this, first you have to amend the Constitution to recognize or accept the political zone of this country into 6 zones before you come and pass this bill. Mr. President, I'm against this bill for the simple reason that it will overprotect the appointment of service chiefs in our country. It will not be good for the unity of this country, and it will not be good for the armed forces because it will affect their morale, because it may end up not recognizing the merit. And to that, it will
bring the morale of the officers serving in the armed forces. I therefore urge my colleagues to study this bill carefully and do what is good for this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I am Boacha Emmanuel, I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, in my own humble opinion, rather than politicizing this bill, I want to encourage our colleagues to understand the character and content of this bill. It's simply waking us up from sleep to do our job. That is how it is as I stand in now, because it is urging us, giving effect to a constitutional provision that grants us the power to establish a commission to oversee the armed forces. And there are existing commissions on ground. In fact, let me emphasize, Mr. President, it will strengthen the bond of unity of our country rather than creating disunity, contrary to what my respected colleague said. It is in our own interest if we give effect of existence. But Mr. President, let me add that the 6 geopolitical zones can even be thrown out in establishing this commission. We mustn't necessarily adhere to it. It is not the main focus of the bill. The bill is to have a commission that will oversight the armed forces, just as we have in the police. The police is not being politicized. There is a police commission that oversights the police. And in any case, it does not even tamper with the powers of the president to appoint service chiefs. No, because the buck ends on the president's table. So let us not try to politicize anything that is good for the interests of the country. The buck ends on the president's table. If he has a commission that nominates people he doesn't like, the president can reject it. He has that power. So let us not make everything, let us not politicize everything. This is my humble submission, Mr. President, and I support this bill until it gets to the hearing. It is areas we agree. Those we don't agree, we destroy them, we throw them away. So let us not be, creating problems where there are none. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Bladon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, our very distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West. I want to my voice to the debate on this bill, establishment of Armed Service Commission. Mr. President, on this of the we are clearly being invited to comply with the provision, very specific provision, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is what the sections that are being quoted in the bill is asking us or calling us to do. Mr. President, in as much as the core of this bill would appear to be in consonance with the provisions of the Constitution as being highlighted in the debate, I want to ask a few questions. My first question is, yes, there is provision in the Constitution. The The 1999 Constitution, as amended, has been a constitution that every National Assembly since then have sworn to preserve, protect, and defend. The mover of this bill is not a first-timer in this. He has been part and parcel of at least 3 Senates as of this term of his membership. Fourth. And this constitution has been in operation all this while. Why now? Why now? Is this suggesting that all these national assemblies between 1999 and now that did not pass a bill for the establishment of this commission have been in default? If the proposition, Mr. President, short of declaring emergency in this country, in the situation what we're going through and what our armed forces are going through, this is probably the worst period after the Biafran War. This is the worst period that has overstretched the unity, the professional competence of our armed forces. And for us now, to now want to introduce this commission at this point in time is going to be very, very diversionary. The fact remains, the fact remains that, yes, the President, Commander-in-Chief, the buck stops on his table. Yes, it will always stop on his table as far as we run constitutional government. And it has been stopping there all this while. Somehow, there has been some grumblings here and there since the appointment of the last set, of this current set of, our service chiefs and the Chief of Defense. And this is what has given birth to this bill. There's nothing wrong. It is depending on the provision of the Constitution, so that, with respect, Mr. President, it amounts to almost blackmailing the National Assembly. Because it's been there. This provision has been there. And the mover of this bill has been a legislator, has been a senator. This is 4th time, I'm reminded. And he didn't move it. Why now? Why now? So, Mr. President, while I am not ipso facto opposed in principle with the provision of the Constitution, the timing is wrong. We can take some time, we can discuss the pros and cons of this bill and see if it has to come in what form it comes. That's what we have now.
Senator Adamu Muhammad Bulkachwa, Sarkin Bang Katagum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lend my voice to this seemingly controversial, but in reality, simple and straightforward. I stand, Mr. President, to oppose this bill. And I look at the whole scenario as a non-issue. The federal character is already enshrined in the Constitution, and federal character starts from the beginning of recruitment in any service. And probably those of us who don't know what federal character means and how it operates is whenever there is a vacancy, they refer to the Federal Character Commission to give them the list of each occupants of a seat from all the states, and they will see and they will recommend to the recruiting agency who to be recruited from which state. Now, to hide 219, 217 of the Constitution is just an academic exercise. Because, yes, it is. And I'm telling you from the point of view, I have read the Constitution. And you can't be more lawyer than myself. Mr. President, since this Constitution has been operated, and even those who argue on the side of the Constitution that we should follow the Constitution because the Constitution said the National Assembly may or shall. Mr. President, you just read a communication from the Deputy Senate President that there will be a meeting of the Constitution Review Committee. The Constitution itself is not sacrosanct. It's not something that cannot be changed. We can't use that argument to change the status quo. So, Mr. President, I think we should advise the mover of the motion to drop this matter and let's go ahead. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Mohammed Danjuma Goje.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Danjuma Goje, representing Central Gombe State. It's on. It's working now. I think it's on. Mr. President, I would like to also contribute to this very, very important debate. First, I want to say clearly that I will never go against the Constitution of Nigeria. Anything they say is constitutional is very important to us who are here to observe. We have also sworn to promote and defend the Constitution of Nigeria. But that does not mean that we should always do it in absolute terms. As argued by some previous speakers, to attempt to politicize the armed forces of Nigeria at this point in time, I think is very, very dangerous for the security and peace of this country. The armed forces are engaged. They are engaged in so many things that are not supposed to be their own duties, and they need for us to introduce something that will bring disunity within the armed forces is to create more problems for ourselves in this country. If you look at the position of the mover of this bill, he said, among other things, that the Commission will recommend to the President the removal from office as service chiefs and heads of other arm-bearing security agencies. So he has even gone beyond the Army, Navy, Air Force. He has gone to other arms-bearing agencies. That will bring confusion to us. Take the case of the police. We have a police service commission, how they even had to go to court. I don't think the case is even over now. The case between the IG, the police service commission. So, you know, all of us will know, more sensitive. It is very, very dangerous for the armed forces to go to court with the proposed National Armed Forces Service Commission. So I think it is dangerous. If we have anything, if we cannot promote the peace, unity of the armed forces today, we should not aggravate the disunity of the situation. For me, I believe the mover is a very seasoned legislator, is not only a legislator, but is also a leader of this side. Leader of this side. That's official designation. Leader of the minority. We should not. And he has been in this Senate. He has been a very, very powerful senator, belonging to various cabals of the Senate, at least from 2007 to 2011 to date. He has never introduced this kind of bill, which is very dangerous at this point in time. So I would like to advise him to quietly stand down this bill until such a time when it is auspicious for us to debate it. So I'm not opposing the bill, I'm opposing the presentation of this bill at this point in time. So I advise that he should step it down to be discussed at a later date. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Chukwuka Utazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North, Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is an institution for distinguished, eminent, respectable individuals. The Senate of the Federal Republic, as an arm of government, this type of people I've just mentioned here, should rise above board in looking at issues of national importance. Mr. President, the issue before all of us here is a purely legislative matter that is presented in the Parliament for us to give effect to the 1999 Constitution as amended. And the express provisions of the Constitutions are not ambiguous. They are very, very straightforward. Mr. President, it pains my heart that when people want to import other negativities into an issue that is straightforward, that detracts for our duty as the upper chamber of the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, I don't want to go and repeat Section 217 and 219, but I want to say that the essence of whatever we are doing here, the Federal Character, as enunciated and encapsulated in the 1999 Constitution, is to respect the diversity of this country. This work. We have commissions. We have had commissions before. This commission is not going to be different from other commissions. They are going to perform their duties as other commissions, like the Service Commission. Mr. President, in order to make this issue, I want to refer us to Section 14, which my friend Olodebe alluded to in passing. And I want to also do it. Section 14, I want to read from subsection 3. Composition of the government of the Federation or any of its agencies and the conduct of its affairs shall be carried out in such manner as to reflect the federal character of Nigeria and the need to promote national unity. Also command national loyalty, thereby ensuring that there shall be no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic or other sectional groups in that government or any of its agencies. And I want to also go to subsection 4 of Section 14. The composition of the government of a state or a local government council, or any of its agencies of such government or council, and the conduct of the affairs of the government or council or such agencies shall be carried out in such a manner as the diversity of the people within its area of authority and the need to promote a sense of belonging and loyalty among the peoples of the Federation. Mr. President, if you take this with the section 217 and 219 here, you can say that this is a harmless bill that has been proposed here for us to give a concession. We have to, if you want the loyalty of Nigerians, of all sections of the country, you have to give vent to it. Part of it is having the commission. And if the commission is there, it's going to help to ensure that that everybody is represented every part of the country. Nobody is saying this. Today, somebody will be a president of the Federal Republic from one geopolitical zone. Tomorrow, it can be another. What we are saying is something that is constant for all of us, something that is constant for everybody. It's not a question of anybody now saying, because you are here, you are saying this. And again, Mr. President, it's very, very important and germane here that my colleague, whom I respect so much, Senator Abdullahi.
Distinguished no, before you say something, I will say something. No, before you round up, please address, if you have to call the name of any senator, call him his proper name. We have no Abdullahi Buhari in this chamber. We have Abdullah Adamu, in case you want me to remind you. Thank you.
I've taken note of your correction, Mr. President. It's my friend. We share such names here. Mr. President, what I want to say is, why now? The question of why now is that we are legislators. This is our time. Anytime a member of the National Assembly thinks anything fit that will engage the sensibilities and attention of the Parliament, that is the time. This is the time we have here. So we can legislate on anything. Mr. President, I want to say here, let's
Senator James Manager.
Thank you, my highly respected President of Senate, distinguished Senator Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, I want to toe the line of reasoning of this and the Deputy Senate President. Mr. President, this bill is just calling on us to do what we ought to have done long time ago. So I see it on the surface as it appears. I see it to be harmless. It's a constitutional provision, 219 of the amended Constitution of the Federal Republic. And looking at the bill itself, Mr. President, this bill is about the bill is more than it's just Mr. President, it's not about happening today, it is about what we ought to have done long time ago. And Mr. President, as far as I'm concerned, it is our responsibility to look at issues that are before us
And that is why we come here to sit every day, at least 3 times. President, just like I said, under your presidency in this Senate, there is what we now see as a style, which is good. Bills come here. If they have to die after the second reading. That is the system that I have seen. And this particular is important. The details will come out. If the details come out and the bill is not, the experts, let us not feel that we have a reservoir of knowledge. We will invite people for public hearing. Those who will come for public hearing will also advise us whether this bill is good or not good. So at the end of the day, the report, and when the report is presented, we'll go for clause by clause reading. A particular clause that is not good enough for this country will be taken out. Mr. President, there's nothing wrong with this bill. And I want to say that we are unnecessarily politicizing this bill. It's a harmless bill, and let's see it at that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. Nay. The nays have it.
Point of order.
Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Minority Leader. Point of order, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Order 73. I'm following it. Any senator may challenge the opinion of the president or the chairman by claiming a division. You have a right to vote. So, Mr. President, I claim a division and I want us to vote one after the other.
Well, let me first of all say that it's not my opinion that the nays had it. We took a vote. The nays outnumbered or outweighed the ayes. So I think it's right that the minority fit
President, 2000 division. I'm not saying that you did right or wrong.
speech.
President, I was the power, therefore, President, during of the Senate. This is part if to opinion, you that you allow this one to take place for people. That the way you ruled, this one to take. It has not gone against the ruling of the president.
I'm not sure if you reflected the
Senate just a bill that seeks to establish the Armed Forces Service Commission. The bill sponsored by the minority of the Senate, Naya Abaribe. Well, to ensure that there is a federal character principle reflected in the appointment and composition of the armed forces, of the chief of service chiefs. Well, after extensive debates from senators, it was clear that the senators rejected the bill after a voice vote called by the president of the Senate. And then the ruling is that the Senate did not allow the bill to proceed further, and it has been rejected at second reading. But then the sponsor of the bill, that is the minority leader of the Senate, Senator Enyinaya, point of order, Order 73, where he says that the standing order of the Senate provides that the Senate, it's not in agreement with the opinion and the rulings of the President of the Senate, should call for a division. But then the President of the Senate explained, not the President of the Senate, the President of the Senate as well, also explained to the minority leader that the order so cited, it does not apply in this case, because what has been ruled on the floor of the Senate was not the opinion of the President of the Senate. It was the decision of the Senate in its entirety. But then the minority leader is also insisting on calling for division, where he expects that each and every senator would have to stand off to go and vote. But now it's creating some divisions, some interests is beginning to come up on the floor, and then the president of the Senate had to invite the minority leader and the leader of the Senate, the majority leader of the Senate, Yahya Abdullahi, who is the minority leader. He's now having a discussion with them in order to arrive at a point. Well, why this bill was on, the minority leader explained that this bill actually is expected to strengthen the armed forces, but then those against it are saying that there already provision for such in the Constitution. It was actually a place where the decisions and interests of senators were allowed to be reflected appropriately, while those in support of the bill argue that the bill, if the bill passed, it could be strengthening or proper application of Section 219 of the Constitution, of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, while others are saying, no, that section of the Constitution has already been addressed, and that the appointment and composition of the service chiefs of the Federation is already provided for, and that is hinged on the powers of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that any other amendment at this point in time, especially when Nigeria needs to concentrate on its fight against insurgents and other vices, that it could be diversionary. Zoom out. All the cameras are off. Okay. Please take off.
My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. Corona, no big pass us. We go fight time, we go win. As long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go win. Oh. Corona, na the virus, we dey worry human being. E no get Lego, but e dey waka from person to person. But we fit beat time, we fit stop time, if we maintain good hygiene and practice social distancing. We go win. Oh. No shaking hands with your neighbor. Blow them a kiss from afar. Use soap and water to wage war. Let's show this thing who we are. We are special, we're courageous, we are awesome human beings. We dey super, we get power, we can conquer anything. If we hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love each other, we go win. Oh. If it be like say you know well, like it's something they do you, and you feel say, you believe say, you get to see they do you, and your body no grisogy, like it's something they do you. No let panic finish you, you go win. Oh. Self-isolate for the sake of all the people that you love. Oh, don't go around spreading rumors, 'cause fake news won't help anyone. You are special, you're courageous, you're a caged human being. You too much, oh, you get power, you can conquer anything. Only if you hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love one another, we go, we know. My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and Pekin. COVID-19, no big pass, we go fight and we go win. Just as long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go, we know.
Akili, 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 akili. Will you wash your hands with me? I want to wash my hands with you. Come on, I will show you what to do. Wash your hands in